Taylor Swift is not a Sagittarius. Watch the video to find out her true astrology. Everything you know about Taylor Swift's astrology is wrong. Welcome to the stars of a showgirl. I'm Sonia Rose, your true sky astrologer, here to tell you about the actual sky during Taylor Swift's birth, some lover interjections and what her and Travis got going on cosmically, and what's going on with the new album announcement after the podcast, and what October 3rd is going to bring us in terms of cosmic magic, along with the life of a showgirl. Let's dive into it. Don't mind my baby making various sounds in the background, like you just heard. He'll interject. He has things to say. Most importantly, the first thing I want to start off with is I bet you didn't know, unless you're really in the know, that Taylor Swift's sun over here on the left-hand side here is in Ophiuchus, the missing ninth sign of the zodiac, making them a total of not 12, but 13 zodiac signs. So between Scorpio, here's Scorpio to the right, and then Sagittarius is Ophiuchus, the one that dances, get this, with the serpent, a core motif, a core theme throughout Taylor Swift's visuals, especially from Reputation onward, is dancing with a snake, snake outfits. I have photos. Here's the evidence. She has her sun here in the right leg of Ophiuchus. And I think of the right leg as like the leg that's coming forward, right? Whereas in the left leg is a little bit more entangled dancing with the scorpion. And that's also kind of has to do with masculine, feminine, right, left energetics. But it's so powerful that through dancing and music, she literally shakes off the past, sheds the skin of the previous era, and enters into a rebirth, into the new version of herself. And she does this sonically with her music. This has literally been her legacy. Her iconic expression of this archetype is pivotal. Like you could literally look up Ophiuchus energy and Taylor Swift would be right next to it. She is such a perfect example of how the power of art and music heals, how you can actually use music and dancing as a form of alchemy. And she just perfectly distinguishes this. Many, many very popular artists are also Ophiuchuses, like Britney Spears and Billie Eilish, but she really embodies and masters this archetype, and she doesn't even know it. She's out there thinking she's a Sag. So everybody let her know, share this video with her if you know. I'm doing like a, Travis Kelce moment, but she deserves to know the truth, especially the truth that has been hidden from all of us and that has been hidden from her. And it's magical because Ophiuchus is often known as the 13th sign, but it's not. It's in ninth order, and then Pisces becomes the 13th sign, but there are still 13. So this is so beautiful. And the really, really cool thing about her son being in this position, and I'm not going to talk a lot about Travis because I'm not that crazy about Mr. Pfizer, but I do think it's very beautiful them being together. And the podcast showed that there was really true love there. And I applaud. I am here for it. She changed the prophecy, and that, love is love, and we got to celebrate it in all forms, regardless of our differences. So let's look at where Travis's moon is in relation to her sun. Check this out. So on the right is Travis Kelce's sun, which is right in the groin, in the midpoint between the legs of Ophiuchus, conjunct right next to Taylor Swift's sun. Sorry, I mean his moon sign is right next to her sun sign. This is a very, very powerful placement for couples to have the sun conjunct the moon, especially in Ophiuchus, is so magical. They were always meant to meet with the music. The music is how they met, and he was mesmerized by her at the Eras Tour, as he shared in his latest podcast. And what's really interesting is the sun is typically known as the masculine energy, right? It's the star that we all rotate around, and she is the star that we are all rotating around, at least in this reading and currently in popular culture. Whereas in his moon sign, the moon sign is more so the feminine sign, but for him, it's like this secret, dark, only people very close to him can see it. And so it's very interesting that her shining brightly, expressing herself through her music, very deeply called him into wanting to be very close, intimate, dating her. And I think what's really powerful is I actually see that the reason why he was even drawn to her is because her outward expression, who she is, the star that she is, quite literally, is a reflection of his inner world, his inner depths, his inner ability to also seek music and movement as a form of healing, right? His particular art comes in sports and football. Baby, where are you going, baby? But it's still an expression of his innermost world. And I think this is also very true in very typical masculine feminine relationships, that a lot of the time, the emotionality, the depth that the feminine person in a relationship has is really what the masculine being is looking for, but maybe can't express, or hasn't been allowed to express in society or in you're in culture, etc. And so it's very powerful that actually like being with her is very emotionally supportive and regulating for him, I imagine, and that her music actually really really speaks to him and emotionally moves him, as it does many many people. And the fact that this is also in Ophiuchus, Ophiuchus is the mystery. Ophiuchus is the one that was hidden, it was occulted. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that they met after Tortured Poets, after she was in a big healing phase, a big rebirth, during eras. Like she was moving and shedding skins and shifting identities a lot. And it was during and after this healing phase that they met. And then there was like a new rebirth. There was a new resurrection of energy between the two of them. And yeah, I'm not, I just see them as people. It's so easy for us to stay divided and, call him Mr. Pfizer, whatever. I, I, I see you and I agree. But at the same time, it's just seeing the love between two people that seems pretty healthy from watching like a 2-hour podcast. There's real beautiful love there. And she changed the prophecy. And I'm so grateful that they found each other. Look at that. So powerful. Now, next, let's look at where their Mars and Venus placements are, because those are also very powerful masculine and feminine planets related to romance and connection and sexuality and intimacy. And theirs are in a very powerful conjunction as well. This happens once every few lifetimes. Honestly, this is cosmic alchemy. On the left side here, you will see Taylor's rising sign and Mars are in Libra. And where is Travis's Venus sign? How he loves, how he shows up in relationships, how he relates to love and romance in general, what he values, literally perfectly conjunct. They are in the exact same spot there in the second half of Libra. This is actually really close to my sun sign, so I know this energy very, very well. And to have a Venus Mars conjunction, especially with her rising sign, like they were meant to have their love be seen and be visualized, and their relationship be seen and followed publicly, right? And there's also a lot of assumptions, a lot of projection, a lot of first impressions that people have without really knowing what's really going on there, right? As is typical for the rising sign. Oh, baby, you can't be on video. It's not safe for babies to be online. Yeah. Okay. We can talk about that later, but it's so powerful that it's her Mars sign, right? Which is again typically the masculine sign. Like she is the driving force. She is they're both very famous, but she is much, much more famous. And her actions and her power is very, very present in their relationship and just in the world. And what's interesting is that she wins. She has this power of victory because she loves so much, because she shares about love, because she's willing to share about love and romance and heartbreak and lovers and everything that she's done, because she's broken the mold in how you talk about love, how you sing about love in the world. And he loves that. He also loves love. He's a lover. He loves people, and they've come together. And the music is going to be insane. Like this next album, the music that she's going to write about him with this conjunction, like it's truly, truly star-crossed. And I just think it's amazing. And that's all I have to say about Travis, because now we're going to talk about our girl, Taylor, and look more in depth at her full chart. And then we're going to look at August 13th, the day that she announced the Life of a Showgirl album. And then we're going to talk about Life of a Showgirl October 3rd as well. So let's dive in. I've got a very comprehensive cosmic download, not download, but analysis for you all. This is Taylor Swift's full true sky chart from masteringthezodiac.com. You can see here that she has a lot of polarity, a lot of kind of tension within her that she uses in order to alchemize and to express and to create profound wealth as well as healing, right? When she heals, she makes money. And that is the polarity of the second house to the eighth house, where she has a lot of activity. So her sun is in Ophiuchus. We know this. She also has her Uranus pretty close by, her Mercury close by, her Neptune all in Sagittarius, and Saturn is in Sagittarius as well. Now, most of these are the generational planets. All of us born at the end of the 80s, early 90s have these planets in Sagittarius, but her Mercury is also here, which really is probably why she connects to and feels like a Sag, because she talks like a Sag. She thinks like a Sag. And that means that she's very rebellious, deeply open minded, and she thinks about her business, which is in the second house, right? She talked a lot about in that interview about how she has her business to deal with and she's going to do that. Like, she doesn't want to be chronically online, which thank goodness. That's just good advice all around from everybody. And she is a projector, but I'm not talking about her human design today. But given that she has her Mercury really close to these generational planets, and especially really close to Uranus, means that she thinks differently and she feels wildly free in expressing herself, right? Looking at Taylor Swift doing what she does, it's so easy for people to just project on her and judge her, etc. You might even be judging me for creating this post. I don't care. I think this is so fun and fascinating. The thing about her is she was the first female singer and artist that dated other famous people and sang about it, talked about it, had her life in the open in that way, with still like a lot of privacy, but she, let it all out in her music. Deeply, deeply vulnerable. Like, if you were to share that much about your heart and your life, it would take boldness, it would take courage, it would take fire. And this is where her fire comes from. It's in her voice. And she wants to be free to express herself. And she is. I was going to say, dang nabbit. I've never said that phrase before, but she is deeply, deeply free in expressing herself. And a big part of that is because perhaps there was an energy where, building up in her life, she saw how other people weren't doing that they weren't willing to say the thing that they were actually feeling, or at least to say it in a song, right? If not to say it to someone's face, what an emotional exchange had for them, to actually put it into words and to at least say it and express it. And since this is really close to her Neptune, it's very, very likely that she would want to express her art through the spoken word, right? Through the written word, through songwriting. And it's just so, so powerful that she does that. She also has her North Node in the third house, and she's got her Venus in the third house as well. Her Venus is just at the start of Capricorn, which is why our girl, takes commitment seriously. And when she's with someone, she's like really fully with them. But she also, this is on the cusp of Sagittarius. She's also fun, playful, spontaneous, wants to see as many people as she can. She wants to learn, but really she wants to lock in. She wants to have a committed, solid relationship with somebody. And she's had a few of those. But I think what's really interesting is that she would have had a Pluto conjunction with her Venus over the last few years. Hence Tortured Poets, hence being with Travis now. There has been a massive transformation with the way that she views love, thinks about love, talks about love, sings about love. It's all been rebirthing and transforming. Love has died and resurrected in her world. And I think you can very clearly see it in her music. And with this new album coming out, it's going to be even more obvious. With her North Node here in Capricorn in the third house, she was meant to be known for the songwriter, for the writer that she is, for the way that she communicates, for the words that she puts out into the world, and for being a legendary leader in the business world for that. Even her being willing to communicate what she has about the music industry and people owning her masters, owning their masters, or her sharing her story about acquiring her masters. it's such a powerful way to change the whole industry, right? Her communication changes the whole industry. Nothing was the same. Things that were previously secret, which is a through line for Ophiuchus energy, is now out in the open. So powerful. And with her midhaven being in Leo in the 10th house, whenever I see a midhaven in the 10th house in Leo, I usually say this person is fit to be famous, at least fit to be famous in whatever it is that they do. But since her North Node is in Capricorn in the 3rd house, she's changing the whole industry with the way that she speaks and communicates. And, I think her work speaks for itself in that sense. So what's really interesting about Taylor is that she has a lot of Gemini placements. So she has her moon in Gemini, her Jupiter in Gemini, and her Chiron in Gemini, all in the 8th house. This girl be psychic. She is intuitive. She is so deeply aware of people's words, her own words, what is said, the interactions between people, right? She even said she is in the business of human emotion, and she absolutely is. But for her to understand her own emotions with her moon sign here in Gemini, she has to write about it. She has to talk about it. She has to sing about it. She has to go into herself and express what's going on. I'm betting a lot of Taylor Swift's emotional processing doesn't actually even fully happen or materialize until she's done the songwriting, until she's gotten it out of her. And what's interesting is with her Chiron here and her Jupiter here, it's like she has to share her deepest pain. She has to go into her deepest recesses, the stuff that she doesn't even really want to admit to herself, and she shares it out with the world. That Jupiter expansion, she shares it with the whole team, with the whole community. And when doing so, it's an alchemical process. It's a way for other people to have catharsis and healing and expression of, whoa, like I was feeling that too, and I didn't even know how to put it into words, let alone into song. And here she is bearing her soul. And sometimes that can be so painful. And this was like, it's both how she does her art and how she emotionally processes her life and her experiences, but it's also the deepest source of her pain, right? The things that she says and what she's put out there has also been where she's gotten the most criticism, and where she's probably even been most critical of herself for the things that she's said or done or expressed outwardly. So it's very interesting, that interplay, but it all kind of feeds into itself. It's like an Ouroboros snake eating its own tail, right? Back with the snakes metaphor. But it really is like, okay, so then I have this painful experience with the public or with being canceled or a la Reputation. And then she turns it all into alchemy again and uses that pain in order to make more music. But it's still a very painful emotional process for her, which is why I imagine she spends most of her time not chronically online and not sharing too much, but she still lets us know what's going on by sharing her music. It really is a very profound and courageous thing to do. Lastly, she does have that Mars and rising sign in Libra, and also her Pluto in Libra. She's a lover girl. She loves love. She wins by being loving. She wins by talking about love and being really loving and fair towards her team and the people that she works with. And karma, like this is literally someone that's obsessed with karma, that's obsessed with justice, that's obsessed with balance. And that is a big part of what she does. And now let's look at how this, as her expression of self, this very creatively free, expressive, loving, deep feeling, alchemizing, healing through music individual can be fully actualized in their next era. And let's look at the announcement date for Life of a Showgirl and also the Life of a Showgirl release date and see what we can kind of expect from that energy. Okay, so this is August 13th, the day the podcast went live and the album was announced. It is Leo season. And what's really interesting is the sun is right near the beginning of Leo season, because Leo season starts on 8/8 Lionsgate. We know this. I put some videos out about that. If you don't know about that, I'll link them in the show notes below. But it was in the 7th house. So it's really interesting as she announced her new album in relationship with her partner, with his brother. It was in the intimate relationships of her life with another famous person, right? Leo 7th house energy is very much like, oh, two famous people came together and did something. And Mercury is at the very start of the 7th house in Cancer. What did they do? They talked, and they talked deeply and emotionally and sensitively, right? They both talked about how they were crying when she got her master's back. It felt like you just got to, it wasn't as um, open ended as if we were just sitting in a living room hanging out with the three of them, but it was still very deep and intimate. And there was like corny jokes about sourdough, which I deeply loved. I'm here for all of the puns. Like, loafing him was bread. Loafing him was bread is something that makes me chuckle continuously. And so what's really interesting is this was an perfect opportunity to have a deep conversation in order to talk about this new album. Now, what is the energy of this new album? There's a grand trine happening here. Mars is in Virgo, Uranus is in Taurus, and Pluto is at the start of Capricorn. So there's a grand Earth trine occurring. There is a shift. There is something being done. There is big power moves, right? Good ideas and power moves is what the energy of this album is. And whoa, it feels like a resurrection of like power, like embodiment, right? When you think about a showgirl, she is deeply embodied and showing herself to the world. And what's really interesting is this, like, there's just so much energy and power to this, but there's also a long standing energy to it. Since it is an earth trine, it's like, hey, this is going to be an album that's going to like make it to the canon, like go down in history as a pivotal point of view about show business, about art, about being a female vocalist, about love and relationships. It's going to be done a little bit differently. And I feel like a lot of her work is very iconic, but there's just something different about this one, especially with Pluto involved. It's almost like she it's like new ideas came through with the Uranus, but also like her power, her directness, like the detail that she poured into this with Mars in Virgo. Like she said, it's like every single track is exactly in the place it needs to be and called what she wants it to be. And she turned the key and torqued it and locked it and did all the things and then polished it up. And with Pluto here, there was also a deep, profound transformation personally and professionally. And especially with the transformation being that she now owns her master's and this is the work that she's putting out in the world. It is like, this is what power and empowerment looks like. And there's just a different energy to her from coming from that place, right? Imagine feeling, tortured poets. She was still every day having intrusive thoughts about not owning her masters, about feeling like she made her life's work and she doesn't even own it, right? Someone else's kids were going to inherit it. Like, how wrong, how bitter would you feel about that? Like, not even being a projector that she is. And she said it was an intrusive daily thought. And now she thinks about it every day and she's proud and she's happy. But she did that. She had to make millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in order to do that. And it changed something deep within her. And it's going to change something deep within the musical landscape, right? The whole economy, the holy ground on which we walk on is going to be shifted. And I also think it's really great that there's so much Pisces action still happening. The moon was in Pisces right next to Chiron. Saturn and Neptune are still conjunct. The North Node is now entering Aquarius. So I think what's really interesting is there's like still so much depth, so many lessons, so much wisdom that she's pouring through with this album, especially with the moon being right next to Chiron. It's like, this is exposing. To put yourself and your relationship up online for 2 hours for people to judge and make memes about, mostly like the reception that I'm seeing because I'm a Swiftie, has been very, very positive. But also there's random people in my DMs telling me crazy things and crazy theories about her. I'm not even going to get into it, but if you know, you know. And it's so interesting how art is such a vulnerable practice. And this feels like a really, really deeply vulnerable practice, but it's also done so that we can have a new perspective on, yes, this can be a superstar that is a billionaire and creates like music industry altering moves and music. She sets new standards, and she's also a person that just wants to be loved and wants connection and makes sourdough and wants to make puns and wants to hang out with her boyfriend and his family. So I think it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting, the humanity of it all, right? And I think it's inspiring. I can't wait to listen to it. Speaking of which, let's look at what the astrology is going to look like on the day of the album release, October 3rd. Now, the fact that this is October 3rd, and she said 10-3 is 13, her favorite number, numerology 100, etc. She talked about numerology during the podcast, in case you didn't know. But I also think that it's not a coincidence that this is also Mean Girls Day. And I think she'll be taking down some mean girls. I mean, one of the title tracks is called Ruin the Friendship. And I don't know that I would say that Taylor Swift can be a mean girl, but I think she can be very clear and very calculated and very biting with what she expresses. And I think in general, she'll still be fair with what she doles out, right? She's not just out here defaming people for no reason and just being rude. It's self-defense, right? And so I think what's really interesting is that Mercury is creating a T square with Jupiter and Pluto, and Mercury is in Virgo. There's a lot of Virgo energy for this album release. The sun is in Virgo, Mercury's in Virgo, Mars is in Virgo. This is a calculation. This is a very deliberate, very distinct, very crafted and honed and perfected album for her, right? Whereas in Tortured Poets Apartment was like, here's my whole heart on a platter. It's just out there. Listen to it. It's like my diary, and there's 30 entries for you. This is like, this is 12. It's a story. It's a concept. Take it in. Everything, every single word, every single note is exactly as it's meant to be. And it's going to stir up some shit. I'm guessing there's going to be some calling out of some very prominent public figures. Some people are, people are Easter egging and thinking that it's to do with whatever, but I think it'll be very, very poignant to see what canceled and ruined the friendship is about, especially because Mercury is T-squaring with Jupiter. Jupiter is in Gemini, so it's going to be a bit of, I don't want to say like backstabbing, like two-faced energy, but it's going to be like, here's another perspective, and here's another POV, and here's another way to look at this, and here's some very biting words, right? Some conflict might be stirred, but this is necessary conflict. It's going to be stuff that people need to discuss and talk about, or at least that she needed to discuss and talk about, and then we'll all be talking about, because as Swifties, we just talk about it all of the lyrics, all the songs. It will be analyzed, right? This is ripe for analysis, this level of Virgo energy. And with this T square also being with Pluto, again, it will transform something deep within the music industry, maybe within celebrity culture, within like the greater world. Like, not to say like, oh my gosh, this album's going to change the world, but it is going to provide a perspective that I think is very important and has not been said or expressed before. We do still have quite a bit of Pisces energy. Chiron is still in Pisces. Neptune is in Pisces, Saturn is in Pisces, the North Node is moving into Aquarius. I think what's really interesting is that she'll be talking a lot about her love now, like the expression of her love and her music and her romance in relationship to how maybe it used to be, or how it's changed, or how it's transformed. Yeah, it's kind of like finding the right people after you weren't with the right people, and that kind of makes you have a different way of looking at your past, but also have a different way of being grateful for the present. And I just think there's going to be a lot of depth there. A lot of emotional depth will be communicated and expressed. And yeah, that T square is spicy. And Pluto is also squaring off with Mars, which is so interesting. Mars is also in Virgo. So again, very, very deliberate levels of transformation. It's almost like who she was. We already might have felt like after Eras tour, like, okay, here she is, this big artist, the biggest concert series in the world ever. She's like, the top female recording artist and songwriter in the world. And yet there's a new era. There's the serpent is shedding her skin once more, and there's a new layer to Taylor Swift we are all about to discover. And with the rising sign in Scorpio, it's going to be tea. It's going to be, I'm thinking like, that Thai iced tea, which is orange, or like iced tea served a little cold, right? It might be iced tea. It might be served a little cold. It's going to be cool. It's going to be refreshing. It's going to be zingy. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting. Just the level of depth and truth and spice that she's going to bring to this. It's going to be very energetic, but very, very deliberate. It is a calculated mastermind move to launch this album and to discuss the things that she's about to discuss. And I can't wait for it. I am so, 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 so excited. So let me know your thoughts and theories about Life of a Showgirl. What else you want me to speak to about Taylor Swift's astrology? If anything, I do want to read her human design as well. If there's other celebrities that you want me to cover, let me know. But I think I'm mostly going to be covering people that I find fascinating. I really want to do Joe Rogan, also Jordan Peterson, kind of like big controversial people that I think are quite interesting, especially interesting in terms of like their shift, the shift that they're making in popular culture in the world at this moment in time. So, oh, fascinating, fascinating. One more thing I want to tell you. If you would like more cosmic alignment with the true natural sky, aligned to what's actually happening in the space all around us, and to really feel the opportunity of each season in your body, in your expression, in your art, perhaps in your music, and in your sacred life, then join me inside of my program, Cosmic Year. We are doing live recordings until Ophiuchus season, and then I'll be creating something new for you all for the next cosmic season. But there's incredible activations in there that you can watch any Scorpio season, any Libra season, any Gemini season. It's so powerful to get empowered and in your body with the cosmos, actually looking up at the true visible sky. So the link is there below. If you have any questions, send me a DM on Instagram at Sanja, Sanja. And it's stellar to subscribe. See you in the stars.